Hey there, this is Dan. You're watching the Salty Sea, and today I'm going to get into a fun little topic kind of on the outskirts of Warcry, which is Thralls. Thralls are the little monsters that destruction, death, and chaos, sorry, order, that those three can take in their warband, usually in campaign situations. But they add a lot of fun little stuff that you can do, and there's some really cool models in there. Um, Another kind of interesting little bit is in the Nova tournament pack, at least at the moment, you can include thralls. Now, there's no specifications yet, since we don't have the final pack on what the thrall, I guess you would say, sort of restrictions are, because usually it's dictated by the campaign you're playing. Order doesn't have any campaigns that allow them. They don't even have thralls at all. Chaos, it's usually gated by monuments, so usually you'll have one thrall, and then once you've gotten, basically you get one thrall per monument. So once you've sort of done enough stuff, you can have up to 3 thralls at the end of a campaign. D&D and some by D&D I mean destruction and death, they sometimes just get unlimited thralls for a campaign. So you could do like an all Troggoth campaign with just a leader from one of the other warbands, something like that. So there's kind of a lot you can do in narrative play all around all the thralls in the game, and there's potential that we might be able to see a tournament that includes them, which would be pretty fun to see if somebody brought an all thrall or mostly thrall list to that tournament, depending on what those rules are going to be, just to see what you can explore in that space. So I figure I'm just going to do a top 10 today. Just run through these real quick. My number 10, and luckily there are only 10 thralls, so it works perfectly. My number 10 would be the Raptorix. This is sort of the poster child thrall of the game. Came in the original starter box. It's kind of the one that I think of when I think of Warcry chaotic beasts. It's quick with move 5 though. It's quick, but it's not fast. It looks a lot faster than it is. It looks like it'd be move 6, 7. And it's only got the 2 attacks. Now, the attack profile is pretty good, so it's a reasonable onslaught target, but really you're going to want to be using onslaught on your big things, on your 200, 250 point models, not so much on the Raptorix. It also, the ability gives you sort of extra bonuses for having more Raptorix around it. And in Chaos, the most you can ever take is 3 because of, the way their thralls on monuments work. So I would say the Raptorix in your lists, it's a beautiful model. It doesn't really have a clear role. The box comes with 3 of them. I chopped the wings off of box comes with 6 of them. I painted 3 and then chopped the wings off of 3 to make conversions on my Raven Guard, just because they're not that useful, to be honest. Number 9 though, most thralls are pretty good, and so now we're actually starting to get into pretty playable ones, even just with number 9. That's the Rockgut Troggoth. You see it in the background in this picture here. It's functionally unkillable. It's really incredible at what it does. What it does isn't very valuable for most missions, but it is incredible in that role. Toughness 5, 28 wounds, has a functional heal ability. Heal abilities are generally pretty garbage in Warcry, but this one is a lot better, at least, than the regular one, and healing toughness 5 wounds is a lot more of a big deal than healing toughness 3 wounds, right? Like I alluded at just a second ago, it's only useful in a few mission types, right? Something like Bloodmarked, something like any of the deployment hunting missions where that the Troggoth is going to be in that group. Anything where your opponent has to find a way to kill this Troggoth that you've only spent 180 points on, while you can use the rest of your warband trying to kill, something else. You're probably going to win that race, and that's where this piece is extremely good. I'd say if there's ever a tournament where you kind of have like sideboard style rules, like reserves, the way a lot of kill teams will do this, or if you had, say, you have to bring 1,500 points and use 1,000 of those points, I'd say the Rockgut Troggoth is an amazing sideboard piece. if that's ever a thing in a tournament, but I wouldn't ever sort of put it in my main list. It's also in campaigns, I think, really useful for certain convergences, right? Every convergence, you're just like, it's unbelievable odds. And a Rockgut Troggoth, if it's trying to keep a certain model alive or something, you can really gain an advantage there. Next is the Fellwater Troggoth, which is, I think, a little bit better. It costs more points, but it's got really solid damage at 7.5 for DPA 4, and it's still pretty tanky. It's got that same 28 wounds. It's just toughness 4 instead of toughness 5. So pretty cool that way. Also, the spell called Noxious Vomit. It's a pretty significant damage spell, right? So you take whatever your dice roll is on a 4+, so half of them, you get to do D3 wounds, which is 2 wounds. So the EV is actually whatever the dice value is. So if you get double 6s, you're going to average 6 damage off this ability. Now it is pretty swingy, right? Because it's 6 damage, but it's gated by 2 different 50-50 switches. So, you know, it could go pretty high or it could be pretty disappointing. Either one could happen. But in terms of the EV of this compared to other similar kind of damage spell abilities, this is way, way higher. Most of those kind of come out around like 2-3 damage. This 6-inch range isn't a ton, but you know, it's enough, especially if you're going to be trying to put this into the thick of things anyway. So absolutely an incredible ability. It would be a lot higher for me. It's just that Destruction has a lot of options for this role. If you look at sort of the Savage Moorboy boss, if you look at Gluttons with clubs and Ogre Maw tribes, both of those have access to kind of decent movement abilities, and the Fellwater Troggoth does not. It doesn't necessarily compare that well to like a Kurnoth Hunter. Now, those are all pretty good fighters, right? So being worse than some really good stuff is certainly no crime. But it just doesn't make it the most competitive option. It's absolutely good. This is a very good unit if you want to run it, if you love the sculpt. It's just not quite competitive, but that's okay. Next, for number 7, I would put Furies. These are kind of fast flying utility pieces. They can go grab objectives, like something like Nexus of Fate, where you know, the objectives are spread all across the board, and there's a big cat and mouse about, can you leave an objective with your powerful piece to go fight on one objective? Having a couple Furies in your list stops your opponent from being able to do that, because they can sit on an objective, and then as soon as your opponent leaves one objective, they can just fly there to go take it, and now you've still got your old one, and they no longer have the one they left to try to win a fight somewhere. So, you know, they can really threaten their presence all around the board. They can go pick up treasure. They can get to the other side in area control missions, stuff like that. So tons of utility around Furies. The problems with them, they're not very spammable because they're pillow-fisted. You know, 3s attacks, 1s and 2s is just not enough damage. And they also die very easily. Toughness 2 means that even those strength 3 fighters are getting bonuses against them. And only 8 wounds. They just die so quickly. And the ability is just bad. It doesn't really do much. So I would say having 1 Fury in your list is very, very good. But having a bunch of Furies, you can't really do it. Like, you can't make Furies be the backbone of a good list, I think. You know, it's a little bit like, they remind me of Aetherwings a little bit, except, you know, Aetherwings took a huge nerf to 65 points. When they were 45, they were game breaking, right? If Furies were 50, 55 points, they'd be game breaking, but at 70, they're just not doing it, not something you would want to have more than 1 of in your list. 1 is good, though. Chaos Spawns. Pretty fun little tanky fighter piece, right? Toughness 4, 30 wounds is well above what you normally get at 175 points. Their damage, DPA 5.33, they have the exact same profile as like every elite foot human hero in Warcry. The difference being, you know, move 5 gives them a little bit better delivery system than you get on your average human foot hero. And they cost the same as the average human foot hero. So I think they're a great little replacement for any kind of lieutenant piece that you have. You know, a lot of the bespoke warbands have something like this. you know, even stuff like Slaves to Darkness, all of their really good heavies are all leaders. So if you ever wanted a third one, I think a Chaos Spawn makes a really good one. Writhing Tentacles is their triple. It adds the dice value in attacks, which is really incredible for damage output. So while their regular stuff is comparable to an elite foot human hero, the boost that you get out of Writhing Tentacles is crazy because for a dice value of 4, it essentially doubles your damage output, right? But a dice value of 5 or 6, it more than doubles it, which makes the Chaos Spawn just a really solid kind of mid-sized piece, sort of bigger than mid-sized, really, but just sort of a small beat stick, something that just can be really, really valuable as your third threat in any of these kind of 3-threat kind of Tome of Champions spreading things around lists. I think a Chaos Spawn can really add to a lot of warbands that way. Now, I would only ever play one of them because they're so dice hungry, because Writhing Tentacles is on a triple, but I think the first Chaos Spawn you include is quite good. Next we get Chaos Warhounds. They are fast. You know, they've got that 8-inch move. They have enough durability and damage, though, to be an actual chaff unit, right? If you compare it to a Fury. The Fury has flight, which is really, really good. But the Warhounds, they get those extra 2 wounds and an extra point of crit damage for the same price. So that means that when they get to where they're going, they can at least do some fighting, right? Whereas a Fury can't. It, you know, it only takes just... the 2 wounds doesn't sound like a lot, but it's really easy. There's a lot of fighters in the game that can one-shot kill an 8-wound unit that don't one-shot kill a 10-wound unit, and so that little difference there can be very valuable. And then, you know, the extra 3 damage on, or the extra 1 damage on the crit just means that there's at least some threat there if you get a couple 6s when you attack. I'd say that the Warhounds are pretty valid for just warbands that have bad chaff. Something like Tzeentch Demons, Nurgle Mortals, Slaanesh Mortals doesn't really have chaff, right? So like 2 Chaos Warhounds is a great addition to that warband. You know, most of the best chaff in Chaos I would not replace with a Warhound, but you know, for those 3 factions, absolutely, I would do it. There's a couple of the bespoke factions that I'd consider doing it to, you know, like Iron Golems. So yeah, a very playable unit, something that very faction dependent whether or not you'd want one, but in the factions that do want it, it's very good. Especially, you know, Nurgle Mortals, you're crying out for something like this. Next we have Bat Swarms. These are in the Death Book. They're the ones on the right here, the smaller bats. The bigger one there is a Fell Bat. Bat Swarms are even more fragile than Furies. So I guess the question is, why do I rate them so much higher? And I think of it like this, right? They do everything a Fury does. They're objective grabbers, they grab treasures, they're good in area control, right? Switching from one part of the board to another in, say, those ones where you cut the board in 4 quarters, stuff like that. The thing is that they actually do real damage, right? They have those 5 attacks, which gives them actual use for hunter missions too. So now, whereas Furies, they're really only good in about 2/3 of the missions that you might pop up in, and that's good. That's good enough to play one. Bat Swarms are going to have utility in every mission type. So even though they're only with 6 health, I still think that there's value to having 1 or 2 of them in a sort of main list. And then their double is kind of interesting, right? Anything that doesn't one-shot kill them essentially has to start over, because you can roll d6, you do that damage, which d6 damage is great, and then you get to heal it. So if they didn't take you out, they have to start all over again, which can be really annoying, especially if it's against a fighter, say a mid-sized fighter that can kill it easily in 2 shots but not in 1, and they were hoping to, you know, they didn't get it, and so now they have to start all over, use an entire activation to take it out. It's very frustrating for them. Plus, being able to, they've got 10 move instead of the 8 on Furies, so being able to go 10 across the board, put 5 attacks onto something, and then roll d6 on it just for a double is an incredible amount of threat range and, you know, damage potential to have on just a 75-point unit. So I think that gives you a lot of value here. I would be willing to use Bat Swarms in any Death Warband. In Flesh Eater Courts, I'd probably take Duke's Harriers before I used the first Swarm, but Duke's Harriers plus another Bat Swarm is absolutely valid in that faction. So tons you can do with Bat Swarms, and I think they're pretty great. Next, Fellbat. Now, around this range, this 4, 3, and 2, and even 1 range, you could really argue putting any of them at any level. All 4 of these are really, really good of the top 4. But Fellbats are essentially just an elite Bat Swarm. They have actually pretty similar damage potential despite having completely different profiles, which is always kind of fun when you math those out. But what's nice about them is that with 12 wounds, they have enough defense to really stick in combat, so they can actually cross the board and then threaten to be in a real fight with whatever they fight, as opposed to, a Bat Swarm threatens to cross the board, do a bunch of damage once, and then die, but it's worth it because you've done a bunch of damage for 75 points. The Bat Swarms, or the Fellbat says, I'm going to run over there, do some damage, and then I'm still going to be there next round, which is really annoying for you. You also get Scent of Gore, which is a triple. It gives you a bonus attack action if it's within 1 inch of something that's taken 5 damage. Really fluffy ability, right? If something's bleeding, then the bats are really into it. But in game, it's really good for just piling onto a high priority target, something where you've probably already done a little bit of damage to it, and now your Fellbat just swoops down, gets multiple free attacks against it, or just like a regular attack plus the free attack. I think that makes it playable in any Death Warband. As I'm talking right now, I'm maybe telling myself that I'd rather have the Bat Swarm, but one Fellbat as sort of a more elite Bat Swarm that actually has sticking power doing the same role, I think is really, really good. Next we get to the Dire Wolf. This is also in Death. Now it has the same stat block as a Chaos Warhound, right? So it's fast enough to traverse the board, has decent enough combat stats to matter. I mean, they're not impressive, but they're useful. But what makes a Dire Wolf really good is it has Slavering Charge, which is a bonus move if there's an enemy within 6 inches. Now, a bunch of fighters have this move. The ones with move 8 make it really, really good because you can leapfrog the fighter that's within 6 to go get another fighter too. So it just gives you an incredible amount of freedom with how you use the ability, and just an incredible amount of mobility around the board. I would say Slavering Charge is one of the 3 or 4 best abilities in all of Warcry, and so having it on your chaff can be really valuable. So I would say that this is playable in any Death faction, and it's capable, unlike a lot of these Thralls, it's capable of being the backbone of an actual competitive list if you have 5 or 6 wolves. I wanted to do a couple mock-up lists here, so because you can just use them in factions that have kind of bad chaff. So like this Ossiarch Bone Reapers list, you get a Liege Cavalos, big horse rider, just really chunky, tough to kill guy who can move all around the board. Then Stalkers, which are really, really good. These like 5 wound or move 5, many wound blenders. But then, the difficult thing about Ossiarch Bone Reapers is that Mortec are just kind of disappointing, only move 3 inches. Well, you just replace all the Mortec you would have, which I think you'd only fit 4 of them anyway, and then you just have 5 Dire Wolves running all across the board. All of a sudden, this is an incredibly mobile warband. It's got threats in every deployment zone that are really good because that's what Ossiarch Bone Reapers is good at. And so you're just combining, their strength with Dire Wolves just replacing the weaknesses of the Mortec. I'd be frustrated playing against this list from just like my own personal Vorthos fluff reasons of just like, I don't see any reason for Ossiarch Bone Reapers to have Dire Wolf friends the way I would want like Soulblight Gravelords to have Dire Wolf friends. But just from a pure mechanical game perspective, this is really, really good. And, I think that this warband here is just a really solid competitive warband, and, the Dire Wolves let you do that. So if you love your Ossiarch Bone Reapers, if you love your Stalkers, you can absolutely make a competitive list with them using Thralls that you wouldn't have been able to before. So, this is, I think, just a really good, like if you're in a big campaign event, something narrative, you can use these and get a lot of mileage out of that. You can also do this with Night Haunt. So if you do 2 Knights of Shroud on Steed, a Spirit Host, and then 4 Dire Wolves. That's a really solid, same concept essentially. You're taking a faction with just awful chaff. Chain Rasps are so bad. Just replace the Chain Rasps with Dire Wolves, and you're fine. You have a really good warband. So this kind of saves quote unquote Night Haunt. Again, Dire Wolves are not ghosts. You'd have to like paint them ghostly. I don't know what you would need to do to kind of make it fit. So again, these thrall lists are gonna often feel a little out of place from a kind of narrative perspective. But if you can kind of think of something that makes it fit from a game mechanic perspective, it's very powerful. Razorgors. That's what I've got as number 1. Again, you could argue any of the top 4 could be number 1, but what I love about Razorgors, they one, the model is terrible. The model, it's out of print, so you're gonna have to find a 3D printed, just like really angry boar. They're out there, you can do these sort of miniature, sort of fantasy boars. But what makes the Razorgor amazing is it's a Rock Tusk Prowler, only 5 more points, but you get 5 wounds. It's 1 wound per point, which is the best rate you can get on wounds anywhere. The cat is already just a competitive badass. It's the one thing that kind of makes Untamed Beasts one of the few bespoke warbands that can really go toe-to-toe with any AOS warband. And a Razorgor is just a Rock Tusk Prowler with a little bit of an upgrade, which makes it really powerful. It's got the Ferocious and the Beast rune marks, so it combos with Beast Speakers, it combos with Bloodstokers, it combos with Packmasters and Master Molders. It just kind of fits into all of these chaos warbands that are based around doing crazy things with their pets. You can put the Razorgor in all of them, and it's really good. It's got move 8, it does respectable damage, like the cat does, obviously, and it's just really incredible. It's playable even in non-combo situations, right? Because it's fast, it hits hard. It can be an elite unit that doesn't take up too many points, just the same as a Chaos Spawn is. In that role, it's a little bit more debatable whether you would want a Razorgor or a Chaos Spawn. I guess it depends what else you would be doing with those 10 points. But it's like, if you have that option, but then you also have these incredible combo options. So, you can do something that this one isn't very competitive probably, but who knows, it's still going to be powerful. A Juggerlord, a Bloodstoker, 2 Razorgors, and then 3 Blood Reavers. Something kind of fun and silly like this where your Bloodstoker is kind of whipping your Razorgors to fury. I think that this, even though I just said that Thralls often make for non-fluffy lists, I think this list is incredibly fluffy. I think the idea of a Bloodstoker who's brought along 2 giant, corn-painted pigs is just really incredible. And then this is going to be a really fast corn unit, or corn list, right? With the Juggerlord being, pretty quick, although he has the Mount Rune mark, so he can't climb, and, people can hide from him. Well, it's a lot harder to hide from the Razorgors, because they can climb, and they're really fast. And, your Bloodstoker giving them extra bonuses is going to be really solid. But for an actual competitive Razorgor list, Skaven, the list that I think most people really love on Skaven is the 2 Rat Ogre list. That's kind of my least favorite of the hyper-competitive Skaven lists. Obviously there's like 10 different ways to build Skaven in a super competitive way. But the reason I don't like about it is that you're not really swarming the board anymore, and that's one of Skaven's real strengths. However, a Razorgor kind of lets you do that, right? You can have essentially 1.5 Rat Ogres. You're already playing Master Molder and a Packmaster anyway for your Rat Ogre. So then you just, instead of the second Rat Ogre, you put in a Razorgor. And now you can go from just 2 Packmasters, which they're really bad on their own when they're not comboing, to making one of them a Plague Monk. Plague Monks are really, really good. And then you can go up to 4 Giant Rats instead of 3. Giant Rats are fragile, but they're fast cylinders. They just get stuff done, which is really amazing. So all of a sudden, this Skaven list is just kind of, you're doing your thing again. You're flooding the board and presenting elite threats at the same time. That, in my opinion, is kind of the epitome of Skaven. The Razorgor lets you do that. I think this Skaven list is just an absolutely terrifying tournament list to go up against, and the Razorgor makes it possible. So that's what we've got for Thralls in Warcry. There's a ton of options that are possible, and you know, if if the final pack comes out for Nova and Thralls are still allowed, I hope you kind of consider these options and what's possible to build with them. We'll see, you know, what the list building restrictions around Thralls are, but it could be a really fun little experiment to go to in a tournament. So, you know, who knows what's possible, what's going to show up there, but you have a lot of options, and Thralls are a kind of a cool part of the game. I'm going to be back with more Warcry content soon. I postponed my destruction video for list building because we have the very sweet new warbands coming out next week, and so I'll have that for the new video. But hopefully this holds you over. So until those next videos, may all your rolls be crits.